Hey everyone. Okay, so being EDS Awareness Month, I want to share this story with you. This is a story of a family who was torn apart. They had a child taken away for the first 10 months of her life, and you can only imagine the pain the family went through. I've done my best to make sure names have been changed and blocked out to protect their identity, but I do think this story needs to be heard. I do think this story needs to be heard worldwide because this is an issue that people with EDS live with on the daily, concerned of what people might think, what they might see and believe by seeing that. And it's heartbreaking. Please listen to the story and try to imagine what this family have been through.
Loving note that proved baby Hope's mum and dad weren't monsters by Sue Reed for the Daily Mail 2159 the 5th of May 2017. Updated 1626 the 8th of May 2017. Marcus and Samantha were accused of almost shaking baby Hope to death. A note was found tucked inside a photo album that was being used as evidence. The judge was convinced that the couple that they had devotion to their child. Their case is expected to influence many cases of shaken baby syndrome. SBS. A poignant note from heartbroken young mother Samantha was tucked into the family's photo album as she faced last Christmas Day without her 7-month-old daughter Hope. It said simply, "It's December 24th, 10:15 p.m. I'm ready for bed, but as I write this I am dreading Christmas tomorrow because our baby girl won't be here. I am missing you, Hope. We all are. Me and Daddy promised to have you home soon. We love you, always have, always will. XXXXX. This message, discovered by a judge by chance when the album was handed in as evidence during an historic family court case, helped stop Hope being taken away and adopted. For the judge said it provided proof of the devotion of Samantha and her partner Marcus to Hope, even though the pair were facing accusations of violently shaking the daughter and nearly killing her. The reprieve was not only a huge relief for Hope's parents, but the judge's view that they were innocent is expected to influence many cases that involve parents who are wrongly blamed for causing their babies injuries. As a result of research by the couple's lawyers and by Samantha herself, it was discovered that Hope has a complex, inherited medical ailment that mimics the symptoms of what is called shaken baby syndrome, SBS. Now, at last, the couple have been cleared and are free to bring Hope back home to live with them again. Marcus, a landscape gardener, and Samantha, a slip of a woman who is a photo model, long for the moment when the family can resume normal life. There is a brand new cot waiting in the baby's bedroom at their house near a park in Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire, and a visit to a children's pet centre is planned as Hope's first birthday treat in a few days' time. The ordeal began for the couple, who are both 23, last August when their 3-month-old girl suffered a sudden collapse in the middle of the night. Her parents rang the ambulance service, which took her to hospital, where doctors found that she had a bleed on the brain. Within hours, Marcus was arrested and accused of shaking her, while social services told Samantha that their child was to be put into foster care. Shaken baby syndrome (SBS) first hit the headlines in 1997 when British au pair Louise Woodward, working in Boston, America, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter for deliberately shaking a boy in her care who subsequently died. The syndrome was said to indicate that brain bleeds, bruising and fractures of children's bones were signs of deliberate physical abuse of babies by parents or carers. In the years since, hundreds of sick babies have been removed from their families on the grounds they have been shaken. However, the theory is controversial. Research has found that other factors, such as vitamin D deficiency, which causes weakened bones, and many hereditary diseases, can mimic the physical signs of SBS. One such disorder passed between generations is ehlers danlos syndrome (EDS), which is linked to an array of symptoms. They include fragile bones, gastric problems, weak blood vessels, bleeding on the brain or behind the eyes, a thinness of the skin, and easy bruising. Some sufferers of what is called vascular or type 4 EDS also have distinctively large eyes, small ears, and are prone to being double jointed. Indeed, it was proved as a result of a test during the legal battle over Hope that she has this type of EDS, which was almost certainly inherited from Samantha, who recently had the same syndrome diagnosed. However, neither Samantha nor Marcus had any inkling of this when Hope fell ill last August, frail and underweight. She was gasping for breath and had suddenly gone floppy and pale. Her parents called an ambulance. When paramedics arrived 6 minutes later, they thought, according to court papers, that Hope was dead. Marcus remembers cradling his daughter in his arms. I felt her go completely stiff. There was a fixed gaze on her face and she became as white as a ghost. I was scared we were losing her. As Hope clung to life in the hospital intensive care ward, doctors summoned social workers and the police because they believed one of her parents had shaken her just prior to her admission, causing a bleed on her brain. Although Hope had no external injuries, 24 hours later doctors said they had found redness on her lip and 2 small bruises on her body. They blamed Marcus and Samantha, although now it is thought the lip mark was caused by an oxygen mask and her body may have been bruised during scans or other medical examinations in hospital. Surprisingly, no immediate genetic tests were made to find out if there was another reason for her illness, despite the little girl having a poor health history and her parents' desperate denials that they had harmed her. Samantha remembers, I had suspicions that something was wrong with Hope from soon after she was born. Her eyes were very big, and she would often vomit and couldn't keep her milk down. We told doctors we were worried. They just keep saying she was fine. Once, I was ridiculously told I was overfeeding her and that made her sick. Even so, she was a joy to us, but we always treated her like glass. Such was the couple's concern that they had taken Hope to GPs, to the local casualty department and to out-of-hours clinics more than 17 times because of weight loss and sickness between her birth in May and her collapse in August. But none of this seemed to convince the doctors when she was rushed into hospital. They only seemed to point the finger of blame at her parents. Marcus remembers the nightmare vividly. They didn't appear to listen to what we told them about Hope's medical history, he says. We realized the medics thought we were guilty when plainclothes police turned up 12 hours after she was admitted and said we had to answer some questions. We thought they were social workers until they announced they were Thames Valley detectives. They said doctors had told them our daughter had a non-accidental injury. The nurses had, obviously, heard the same story because they looked terrified of us even if we just tried to gently kiss Hope on the head. Worse was to follow. Marcus got into an argument with the police when they stopped him entering the intensive care department to see his daughter. They bruised his arm with a truncheon, then took him to a police station, placed him in a cell for 9 hours and told him he was under suspicion for harming his baby. The investigation against him was only dropped last week. He explains his understandably protective reaction, saying, if you try to take a cub from a lion, what it is going to do. Next, he says police secretly took the couple's keys from their bag in the hospital and searched all their house, even a garden shed, for signs of Hope's blood. Marcus says, they thought I was a child killer. 3 days later, with Hope still in hospital, the couple were taken to a family court, and an emergency protection order for their daughter was issued. It meant she could not return home to her parents. Instead, she was sent into foster care when she left hospital early last October. Desperate to prove the couple's innocence, Samantha's lawyers investigated the possibility that the injury was the result of a medical condition. They asked Samantha if she had ever heard of ehlers danlos syndrome. She hadn't, but began searching the internet about symptoms. The more she read, the more she thought this might be the cause of Hope's problem. She says, I was always small for my age and very wary of school games because I bruised so easily. My eyes are big, my ears small, and the veins show through my skin. Believing these could have been signs of the syndrome, she underwent medical tests and was found to have the disorder. As a result of this, it was arranged by their lawyers for Hope to be tested, too. This was done by an eminent geneticist in London in December. The results, released 3 months ago, proved that Hope had inherited EDS. We cried because we realized she has a lifelong problem, but they were happy tears because the test results cleared our name, said Samantha yesterday. But their ordeal was not over. When the couple told social workers of the test findings, they said Hope was still being considered for adoption and must remain in foster care. Until last week's court ruling, her parents were only allowed to see the little girl 3 times a week, for 90 minutes at a social services contact center. Their visits were heartbreaking. When we left the contact center, Hope would follow us with her eyes. It was always better if she had fallen asleep before we went. We were always upset to leave her, says Samantha. Finally, earlier this month, in a lengthy family court hearing in front of Her Honor Judge Venables in Milton Keynes, EDS was accepted as the reason for Hope's turn for the worse. The medical evidence meant that Buckinghamshire Social Services withdrew their application to have the girl kept in care or adopted. The couple shook the judge's hand after she said, "It is clear. She is a precious baby adored by both parents. I consider that Hope's collapse was most likely the consequence of a naturally evolving disease." The judge said she had made her court ruling open to allow Hope's parents to engage in the debate about type 4 EDS and its impact on children. It was an historic move in the notoriously secret family courts, a system which has seen parents imprisoned for talking about the outcomes of hearings. Vitally, the judge's decision could help shed light on how other innocent parents are being unfairly accused of baby shaking. Riek Edwards Brown, a campaigner for accused families, fears that many have been wrongly convicted on the opinion of doctors and social workers rather than on fact. Meanwhile, William Bache, the solicitor for Hope's father and a senior consultant at law firm GT Stewart, says, Hope's case highlights a problem I've seen far too many times. Parents seek help at a hospital for their ill baby. If symptoms are found which some say indicate shaken baby syndrome, there is an unthinking reaction leading to the conclusion of abuse. There is then no further medical inquiry into any other possible reason for the illness. It is a tunnel vision which might leave a child untreated or even dead. Significantly, the Court of Appeal has ruled that due to the continuing confusion surrounding shaken baby syndrome, a criminal conviction should never be made where there is conflicting medical opinion. There must be incontrovertible evidence of an assault. However, in the secretive world of family courts, where decisions are made on balance of probabilities, hundreds of parents every year are still having children removed into care or adopted, despite proclaiming their innocence. Although totally vindicated, Marcus and Samantha say that shockingly they have not received any apology from the police, the hospital doctors or social workers. Yesterday,